Picture a towering stone castle, banners waving in the breeze, and knights in gleaming armor. Now, strip away the Hollywood filter. If you were dropped into the year 1350, the mundane reality of daily life would likely kill you in under 24 hours. Your survival challenge begins in the pitch black of 3 a.m. In an era without central heating or artificial light, you are forced into biphasic sleep. Biphasic sleep is a natural, segmented rest pattern where people wake up for an hour or two in the middle of the night to tend fires, pray, or socialize, before returning to a second sleep to survive the cold, dark nights. Waking up on a mattress made of damp straw, you are already covered in grime. Popular culture often suggests that medieval peasants enjoyed wallowing in the mud. In reality, they valued cleanliness and washed their faces and hands daily, but they completely lacked the indoor plumbing and clean water infrastructure required for a full body wash. Getting into a tub of hot water was actually considered incredibly dangerous. Medical consensus of the time dictated that warm water opened the skin's pores, allowing miasma to seep directly into the body. Miasma was a widely accepted, though completely incorrect, medical theory that diseases were spread by foul-smelling, poisonous vapors emanating from decaying matter. To stay clean without risking their lives in a bathtub, peasants relied on an ingenious workaround, wearing thick linen undergarments. Linen is highly absorbent and naturally antibacterial. By wearing a tightly woven linen tunic close to the skin, it soaked up sweat, oils, and dirt. You didn't wash your body, you washed your linen. Venturing outside the hovel presents immediate biological hazards. In a crowded town, your neighbors are emptying wooden chamber pots directly out of their windows and into the narrow, unpaved streets. That romantic castle moat you pictured earlier is actually a stagnant, open sewage basin collecting the runoff from the entire fortress. Making it through a medieval morning relies entirely on your ability to navigate this invisible biological minefield. Every step you take outside your door puts you in direct contact with pathogens that your immune system has never encountered. The workday starts punishingly early. The church bells ring at 4 a.m., signaling the start of your labor. And by 9 a.m., you finally sit down for a miserable, gritty bowl of pottage and a slab of dense bread. Even that bread is trying to harm you. Grain shortages were a constant threat, prompting unscrupulous bakers to stretch their expensive flour by kneading in heavy, indigestible fillers. Your morning loaf is likely cut with ground acorns, chalk, or even coarse sawdust. To wash down that sawdust bread, you might look toward a nearby stream. Drinking from it is a game of biological Russian roulette. Those chamber pots emptied into the streets inevitably drain into the local water table, lacing the rivers with human waste, livestock runoff, and deadly parasites. The safest drink available is actually a mug of watered-down, incredibly weak ale. The alcohol content is low, but the brewing process requires boiling the water for hours. Without knowing what bacteria even was, medieval brewers were accidentally sterilizing their drinks, making a mild daytime beer the only reliable way to stay hydrated. Fueled by adulterated bread and weak beer, you take up a heavy scythe and head into the fields. Agricultural labor in 1350 is a brutal, agonizing endurance test. You swing that blade for hours, tearing the muscles in your back and blistering your hands, with absolutely no medical safety net if you pull a muscle or break a bone. Your meals provide barely enough calories to sustain this back-breaking labor. Eating and drinking offer no real comfort. They are a tense, daily negotiation between the gnawing pain of starvation and the threat of accidental poisoning. When we think of medieval disease, the Black Death instantly comes to mind. It is famous, dramatic, and terrifying. Yet focusing solely on the plague ignores the actual, everyday killers that wiped out entire villages year after year. This chart shows the aggregate years of life lost in a typical medieval population of 100,000 people. According to the International Journal of Paleopathology, infant mortality, fevers, tuberculosis, and gastrointestinal infections caused significantly more total deaths over the centuries than sporadic plague outbreaks. If you fell victim to one of these endemic killers, you faced humoral theory, the era's dominant medical framework. It operated on the belief that human health was governed by the exact balance of 4 liquids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Because doctors believed your illness was caused by an imbalance in this internal soup, their treatments focused entirely on draining the excess. If you had a fever, they assumed your body held too much hot blood, resulting in violent, intentional bloodletting. You were trapped. The pathogens in the dirt and the water were trying to kill you, and the medical establishment was waiting to treat your symptoms with leeches, scalpels, and polite torture. You might assume the solution to this misery was simply to be born rich. Inside the great hall of the local lord, the tables groan under the weight of roasted boar, imported wine, and heavily spiced delicacies from across the globe. But an embroidered silk robe offers exactly 0 protection against bacteria. The wealthy enjoyed better nutrition and grander architecture, but they shared the exact same ignorance of microbiology as the peasants sleeping in the mud. In 1216, King John of England sat down for a lavish royal feast, gorging himself on an enormous platter of fresh peaches and cider. The fruit was spoiled. He contracted a violent case of dysentery and died in agony just a few days later, his absolute power entirely useless against a microscopic intestinal infection. Wealth in the Middle Ages provided a comfortable illusion of safety. Behind the tapestries and the gold, microbes remained the ultimate, undefeated equalizer. Surviving a single day in 1350 required an immense tolerance for pain, grueling physical labor, and an astounding amount of accidental ingenuity. Our ancestors made it through by boiling their water into ale and scrubbing their bodies with raw lemon. We live in an era of unseen miracles. When you turn a dial, your home fills with heat. When you twist a handle, clean, thoroughly sterilized water pours freely from a metal spout. The next time you stand to a hot shower, take a moment to appreciate the mundane, life-saving luxury of modern plumbing, because in the 14th century, that exact same comfort would have been considered a deadly invitation to the plague.